Well, you're in Florida. Are we live?
We are live.
Good morning, everyone. We're going to call this meeting of the TRPA Legal Committee to order. The date is Wednesday, November 20th, 2024, and the time is 8:30 a.m. First item on the agenda is the roll call to determine quorum. Catherine.
Ms. Fastinos?
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Keycuffer?
Here.
Ms. Loomer? Ms. Williamson?
Here.
Oh, that was Ms. Loomer. Thank you, Alex. And Ms. Aldean?
Here.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. All right, for members of the public who are joining us remotely to observe the meeting, go to trpa.gov under the calendar header, click on Governing Board Hybrid Meeting for November 20th, 2024. There you will find a link to the public meeting hosted on Zoom. And I'm assuming, Catherine, that it's the same platform for all the committee meetings at the Governing Board.
No, the other committee meetings and the Governing Board will be on a separate webinar starting at 9.
So there's a separate link for the legal committee meeting. To address committee members directly with your comments, raise your hand in Zoom by clicking raise hand at the bottom of your screen at the appropriate agenda item. With your hand raised, you will be unmuted by TRPA staff and have 3 minutes to address the committee. If you have used the dial-in numbers to join us by telephone, you can dial *9 to raise your hand and be unmuted. For items that are agendized as informational only, we will hear public comment during the general public comment period at the end of the meeting. On items agendized for action or possible action, we will hear public comment before the committee takes any action. To remote committee members, that would be Alex and Belinda. I'm sure you're aware of all these things. If you wish to speak, please also raise your hand in Zoom. You will find the hand icon on the bottom of your screen. Remote committee members may not use the chat box to make any comments or to have sidebar conversations. Please, everyone, remember to mute your mic and speaking to cut down on background noise. Finally, I would also like to ask that all remote members turn on their cameras if they are able to do so. Members of the public who have joined us in person, please raise your hand at the appropriate time for public comment and you will be called on. Committee members who are in person, please raise your hand as well if you wish to comment. Next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Graham, any changes to the agenda?
No changes.
Okay, then we will deem the agenda approved as posted. Approval of minutes. We are now on agenda item number 2, approval of minutes. We have a draft set of minutes from October 23rd, 2024 on page 7 of your packet. Does any member of the committee wish to make any change? Okay, I don't see anyone raising their hand. All right. Then I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented. Thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
I will abstain. This is Belinda. I was not present at that meeting.
Alex?
Sorry, I'm having issues with my mute button.
Oh, no.
Apologies.
Great. Thank you. So the motion passes. Next item on the agenda is the discussion and possible recommendation for approval of resolution of enforcement action. Tahoe Keys SMI LLC, a Delaware limited liability company, otherwise known as Suntex. Unauthorized moorings, failure to install and maintain water quality best management practices, failure to pay mooring registration fees, and unauthorized coverage at 2435 East Venice Drive in South Lake Tahoe, California. Assessor's parcel numbers 022-210-032-040 and -044. All right.
Catherine, would you mind?
Good morning, Tiffany.
Good morning, everybody. Would you mind? Thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Tiffany Good. I'm a principal planner with the Permitting and Compliance Department here at TRPA. I'm also joined this morning by Steve Sweet, our Compliance Program Manager. We've got Dennis Zabaglo, AAS Program Manager. And on the applicant side, we have Lou Feldman and Eric Metz, who are representing Suntex. And today I'm bringing to you for consideration and possible recommendation to the governing board, the settlement agreement between TRPA and Suntex, also known as the owners of the Tahoe Keys Marina. Next slide, Catherine. So the Tahoe Keys, for anyone who's unfamiliar, is this area that's outlined in red here in South Shore. And it's part of the area that's largely known as the Tahoe Keys. The area off to the left, all those fingers, that's the property owner side. also known as the TKPOA. And then within the marina side, there are some privately held docks and slips that are outside of the red outline that include beach and harbor. And also there's some condominiums that have some privately held docks. Those are outside of the context of this discussion. It's just the marina. So the marina has, they've got waterside development that include the docks and the slips. They've got a public boat launch and ramp. They've got lots of bulkheads out there, fueling facilities. And then on the upland side, they've got the building that's formerly known as the Fresh Catch. It's a restaurant building. And some marina services building, some marina services buildings and also boat storage. Next slide, please. So before we get into the nitty gritty of the settlement agreement, I want to just give everybody a little bit of context. The marina was built in the 1960s and it was developed at the same time as the rest of the Keys. And it's adjacent to Cove East. And actually, Catherine, if you can just go back to the previous slide for just one moment. Cove East is the area to the right of the marina outlined in red. And you can go forward again, sorry. And this is a location where, you know, millions of dollars have been invested in projects to improve water quality and also better manage and control aquatic invasive species. So the marina is at a prime location, ground zero, for some very important work that we've accomplished with our partners. And we believe that the settlement agreement is just another important piece to help further that work. Next slide, please. So some of the unauthorized activities and violations that you're going to hear about today are really the result of the previous marina ownership. With the previous owners, TRPA really struggled to work with them throughout the past on a lot of, you know, really big issues. And as a result, the property continued to decline over the years. And when Suntex bought the marina, and I believe that was 2022, December 2022, they inherited a pretty bad situation out there. But to their credit, they reached out to TRPA right away and sought to work with us to rectify a lot of those issues. There's a lot of really urgent water quality issues. You can see by the dilapidated docks in the photos. And they also wanted to, you know, address the dilapidation of the property in the context of a desire to redevelop and revitalize the upland portion of the property. So that's always been a part of the conversation. And working with Suntex as a private property owner is a great way to benefit the lake at the, you know, specific to this location, and is really at the heart of what we do here at TRPA. And Suntex has been a willing and responsive partner, and they have the resources to dedicate to this property in order to achieve both environmental improvements and also ultimately realize the revitalization of the property. And it's important. It's an important part, an important property to the South Shore community and Lake Tahoe at large. Next slide, please, Catherine. So now we'll talk about the unauthorized activities and violations that the settlement agreement includes. The first is the dilapidated dock system that is potentially harmful to water quality and public health and safety. There are unauthorized boat slips out on the property. The marina has a total of 305 moorings, but TRPA only recognizes 239 as a result of the Tahoe Keys Marina Master Plan and a subsequent settlement agreement that was approved in the early 2000s. So there's 66 slips out there that are unauthorized. Also, they owe back mooring registration fees. There's 6 years worth that they're on the hook for. And also they have not installed water quality best management practices on the property. And this property being so sensitive, it's a commercial marina, obviously on the lake. It's very important to get those BMPs implemented. And then really from the beginning, Suntex has been working with Steve Sweet to get a handle on the motorized boat rentals out there. It was kind of a situation that was out of control, and they worked with Steve to get a handle on that And that's also reflected in the settlement agreement. So considering, the breadth of the violations and the unresolved issues on the property, the dilapidated dock infrastructure, TRPA staff determined that the settlement agreement was the best path forward. Next slide, please. So some key terms of the settlement agreement. The first, Suntex is required to replace the dock infrastructure in its entirety to address the water quality and public health and safety issues. The improved dock system will be comprised of a fully enclosed flotation material, which is actually far environmentally superior than what exists out there today. Replacement will also be limited to the existing footprint, substantially to the existing footprint, and they will be required to get a TRPA permit for that replacement. They also have to pay their past due mooring registration fees. The total for that is up on the board. That $78,690 reflects 6 years of past mooring registration fees. And just for some context here, when we adopted the shoreline plan, the mooring registration program was also a part of that. And so every mooring on Lake Tahoe or that has access to Lake Tahoe is required to pay an annual fee. And those fees go towards things like AIS control and management, no wake zone enforcement, and mooring enforcement. So that's a fee that they'll have to pay. They're also going to submit an AIS management control plan, and they've been working with our AIS staff. And I believe actually they've already submitted those, correct, Dennis? Yeah. So those are in the works. And then TRPA will recognize a maximum amount of coverage, and in exchange for recognizing that coverage, they will be required to pay what is essentially a water quality mitigation fee. And that represents the difference between the currently recognized coverage and that maximum number. And that number is up on the screen. Next, Suntex is required to implement an interim BMP plan by October of next year, and they have worked very closely with our BMP staff on a plan that is meaningful and effective for the near term, and also considers the long-term redevelopment goals of the property. And lastly, Suntex is required to submit the appropriate applications for the additional 66 slips that they are operating. And this process involves, at a minimum, receiving those allocations out of the mooring pool for those, and then submitting a marina expansion application, which will also involve rectifying the concessions. And that marina expansion application and project is something that will require consideration and approval by the board. Next slide, please, Catherine. And I think that closes us out here. Just to wrap up, staff is recommending that the legal committee recommend to the governing board approval of the settlement agreement between TRPA and Suntex. And just like some closing comments, the settlement agreement really reflects a whole past of unresolved issues and unauthorized activities and violations that Suntex inherited, and have really put forth a good faith effort to work with us to rectify and bring this property up to snuff with current regulations, but ultimately revitalize this property for the benefit of the South Shore community. So I will wrap it up there.
Okay, thank you, Tiffany. Steve, Dennis, anything you want to add from staff's perspective?
Yeah, I'd like to just add that, one thing I've learned over the years, partnership is very important to maintaining compliance, getting compliance out there. From day one, Suntex, came to us and worked with us on the concessions. It has been instrumental in our concession enforcement and helping us stop a lot of that illegal, unauthorized activity in that area. And so, it's been a great partnership so far. And I look forward to continuing that with them and working. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Dennis Spaglow, AIS Program Manager. Yeah, echoing Steve's comments, they've been really great to work with. They've been very forward thinking on AIS control and management and how we best go about doing that. Already working on some of the items within the settlement agreement as they pertain to AIS already. And just from a lake-wide perspective, talking with a lot of our other marina partners, they really need the Tahoe Keys Marina to live up to its potential because it is the only facility that can handle the size of boats from a mechanic standpoint, launching standpoint. So they're excited about the new ownership as well.
Okay, thank you. All right, it's Suntex's turn. Eric, are you going to speak on behalf of Suntex?
Morning, Madam Chair, committee members, Luke Felton, on behalf of Suntex. Thank you, Tiffany.
You're welcome.
So, staff has been terrific to work with on this, and many of you are very familiar with the Tahoe Keys, which used to be kind of a celebrated spot in Lake Tahoe and has sadly outlived its useful life. I think we're remarkably fortunate to have a company like Suntex in particular, who is in the marina business all in. This is not a rehab, this is a redo. So everything is out there. The waterside improvements, the landward improvements are all going to be replaced with state-of-the-art infrastructure and improvements that are really going to enhance not only the environment, but the vitality and economic well-being of that area. Just to give you a little bit of an order of magnitude and anticipated schedule. The crisis today, if you will, are the lakeside improvements, the waterside improvements. So those docks are in such bad shape. We hope to have an application in very soon to replace the waterside improvements and get that done next fall. Just the docks are probably in the $20 million range. There may be bulkhead replacement that mimics that number. We have assembled a very talented team to look on the landward improvements. We hope in the first quarter of 2025 to submit a plan to redevelop the landward improvements. It's aggressive. In a perfect world, we would replace the docks in the fall of 2025 and start the improvements on the landward side in 2026 with probably an 18-month build out. And at the end of the day, this could be in the $100 million range. So we are enthusiastic about the partnership with the agency. We are poised to move as quickly as the process will allow us to, and we have reached out to other stakeholders, and I can say the support from just about every section has been overwhelming. There isn't anybody who wants to preserve the existing condition. If I have missed anything, Eric Metz is the project manager from Suntex, who has so impressed me with his knowledge of how these situations are to be navigated. He understands the process. Suntex understands the process, and we appreciate the opportunity to move forward, and certainly encourage the legal committee to recommend the governing board approve the settlement agreement. Eric and I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Suntex, how many marinas is Suntex in?
Just under 100.
Under 100, okay, so they're well acquainted. That's why Eric is well acquainted.
Yes.
These sorts of improvements, okay. Any questions from members of the legal committee? Belinda, Alex, Ben?
Yeah, if I could, is this a common sort of acquisition for Suntex to take over and operating and not it was dilapidated somewhat infrastructure that needs to be overhauled?
So Eric, that's with Suntex. It's not common, but it's sort of a diamond in the rough in terms of what this property was, because of what its potential can be. That was one of the most sort of interesting things about the whole property. But We also bought it as Katie alluded to, be kind of eyes wide open, knowing that there was going to be a process to understand how to take it from what it was to what it can be. And this is very much its first step, as Luke said, but we're looking forward to that process. But we have several marinas in our portfolio that we purchased in 2022 and 2023. They're going through the same level of engagement. It's kind of a similar scale and size, but each one is, because marinas are very unique. There's not one marina out there in our portfolio that's consistently the same as another, if that makes sense, because every water feature is, you know, fundamentally different. So I'll answer the question fully, but we're excited for it.
So Eric, I'm assuming that all of the, you know, the challenges, including the unpaid mooring fees, were disclosed to you by the previous owner who bought the property, or was that an unpleasant surprise?
I think Steve disclosed it to us. I'm not sure if it's yeah, no, I mean, before we closed, we met Katie, I think.
Tiffany.
Yeah, sorry. We met Tiffany, also met Steve and other folks there. So we were aware that we had a challenge. But then I will say that then Katie Linton, sorry,
That's okay.
Katie Linton was our GM on site. And she's been really digging into that process, because there's a lot of things that we discovered, things, you know, as you buy a property that's challenging. Yeah, you got to work through it. So it's been relieving, I think, to have the support, right? So we have a pathway to work through those items, because it's been a challenge for Katie. I think we're at the point now as we're sort of turning the page on that chapter, now with what's there, looking forward. That's really our main goal, to see what we can do now.
So I have a question regarding your application within 90 days of governing board approval for a clean marina certification. I mean, do you qualify at this point?
We do. We actually have it. We got it last month. And so clean marinas are specific to your operations primarily. So we do meet the criteria for that. The BMPs and that side of it are not necessarily part of a clean marina certification, but will become part of the Lahontan items and TRPA's items. So they kind of come together, if that makes sense, but it's a different certification process.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I think this is very encouraging. Yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Eric and Lou, and Julie Reagan, TRPA's executive director, for the record. Just the picture that Tiffany showed with the marsh, and we were out in the field yesterday looking at this. That was to be condominiums, and so I think it's a great example of the long arc of history of TRPA and the compact. And that would have been more condominiums had the compact not come into play. There was litigation. It's a very complicated history there. The Conservancy ended up owning those parcels in the Upper Truckee Marsh, and the Cove East area is now a phenomenal public benefit, you know, for water quality, for public access to the beach. And there are, you know, well over 1,000 homeowners there. There's over 170 acres of lagoons that are polluted with aquatic invasive species. So I just wanted to flag for the board how this represents some of the challenge that we faced in Tahoe, and now the opportunity to work with a private owner who wants to be proactive and to make that section of the Keys property at writ large really shine and be compatible with the natural beauty around it, because it's been sad to see, as a longtime local on the South Shore, the condition of that area. And Lou is right, it used to be such a frequently visited place, and the Fresh Catch was a place of, you know, community meetings and public service, you know, events, and to see the condition deteriorate has been alarming. And with the built environment crumbling, the natural environment is suffering. So it's a good opportunity, and I really want to thank Tiffany and our team and Graham, because these are some previous legal settlements that Graham has had to navigate with lots of stakeholders. So to get it to this point, I think I just wanted to flag for the board's benefit that it was a lot of due diligence, and to really encourage doing the right thing, and have that cooperation that Steve mentioned. So just kudos and hats off to the staff and to the applicant for working it through.
Great. Graham, did you have any comments?
I have a couple very small technical, like, just clarifications for the record. You know, in Tiffany's presentation, you mentioned the water quality mitigation fee, and I just wanted to point out it's $1.86 for every square foot of coverage beyond a certain amount, but it's actually not, that $1.86 is tied to, that's the amount of the water quality mitigation fee, but we're bringing that in, not necessarily to the water quality mitigation fund. So I just wanted to just point that out. And then the only other thing is Dennis had mentioned, he caught a small change to the settlement agreement he wanted to make regarding the, was it Dennis? The
Condition 8.
Yeah.
I can read it.
Okay, yeah. So when we get to the motion, I just want to make sure that we do that and we can make that little technical change in the agreement.
So, Graham, I mean, Julie kind of alluded to the fact that you've been having conversations with the parties in connection with the 1980 litigation to make sure that we're not running foul of any representations that were made or any critical components of that agreement. You're satisfied that's it?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, okay. All right, so we have an amendment on for paragraph 8.
Correct. Paragraph 8 currently states Suntex shall purchase and operate one non-motorized decontamination unit, and that should be amended to state that Suntex shall purchase and operate one waterless cleaning station. So replacing decontamination unit with waterless cleaning station.
Before we go to public comment, Belinda, Alex, do either one of you have any comments to make?
No, just great work. Appreciate all the cooperation on both sides. And for the betterment of the lake, that's what we all want. Thank you.
Belinda.
I just had, a couple of questions. I'm trying to understand how we're counting the slips and how that's relating to the transportation mitigation. This was flagged in the letter from the league. I was hoping someone could explain that a little further.
Yeah. So the litigation settlement agreement from the league, those the slips are being counted. Essentially, we're staying consistent with the 239 that we have authorized that was consistent with the settlement agreement and also the Tahoe Keys master plan back in the early 2000s. And what this settlement agreement does not supersede that settlement agreement. And when Suntex comes in with the application for the 66 additional slips that brings them up to the 305, formally recognized, permitted, allocated, then all of the traffic mitigations will apply at that point.
Got it. Thank you. And then I was just curious, and this isn't directly related to the settlement, but just so I'm understanding, sounds like some of these violations have been going on for years. Is that correct? Like prior to Suntex coming onto the scene?
Yes, all of the violations, in fact, have been in place since the previous owners had ownership of the property. And like I said during the presentation, Suntex inherited this situation. And so, yeah, it's nice that they're coming to the table now to rectify this pretty sad situation.
Yeah, no, really appreciate that. I think, and maybe this is just a longer conversation, offline, but I'd love to better understand how those violations went on for so long. And, how we could better do enforcement to make sure that this, isn't an ongoing problem in the future.
Thank you, Alex. Julie?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Julie Reagan here, Alex. Really good question. And I agree with you. We can have a bigger conversation. I can tell you from just experience, it's been very difficult for all the agencies to make any progress in enforcement because of the recalcitrance of previous owners. And it's something we collectively as a partnership have talked about with the LaHont Water Board and with the Property Owners Association. It's affected not just the violations on the property at the marina, but the greater invasive species program, and just, it's been a struggle. So we prioritized this as soon as, we were working on this already before the new ownership, but when the ownership changed, it kind of broke the logjam. So we prioritized it at staff level to go all in to bring it forward. But we could get into more detail offline. Happy to do that. Steve has a lot of background, Dennis Sabaglo and other staff members that have been working out there for many years.
Yeah, I think Alex's question is why weren't there some more rigorous enforcement measures taken? So that can be part of that
I
conversation.
might mention, since I'm as old as the Marine, I suppose.
You look better than the Marine.
Thank you. There's some maintenance here. The prior owner, you know, had a history of having been convicted of felonies and was a very difficult person. I'm not sure there's response to enforcement the way most citizens would, and since deceased and returning the page, but they had quite the challenge dealing with prior ownership too. Tell you from my perch. Okay. Yeah.
Yes, we were doing enforcement with them. You know, we were working with them on BMPs and a lot of the issues out there. But again, the past ownership was very difficult to work with.
So you thought you were making incremental progress.
We
so
were
that's
making
why you did
some, yeah,
you didn't resort to litigation.
along with the, you know, other agencies, we were making some progress. But, you know, we saw when Suntex took over, we really saw it the opportunity to work with them and make huge change out there. So,
good. All right. Makes sense, Ben.
Yes. So I guess so. TRPA recognizes 239 slips as permitted, right? But we're having them pay fees for 305 and requiring them to submit applications within 90 days for 305.
Correct.
So will they be able to operate all 305 this coming season, even though we only recognize 239?
Yes, they will be, and that's part of that. The reason why they're paying the mitigation fee, or sorry, the registration fee for the 305. The code is very clear that for any slip, whether it's legally recognized by TRPA or not, that has access to Lake Tahoe or is on Lake Tahoe must pay the registration fee.
And those slips are currently operating, or they've been operating.
Correct. Yeah.
Thank you.
And Madam Chair, if I could add one more thing, just to speak to Alex's comment, it's a good flag, and just keep in mind, Lou Feldman's comment, I think, shed some light on this. The Keys historically has been a bit of the Wild West in bringing it into conformance in the regional plan, having the shoreline fees apply. It took decades to get to the 2018 shoreline adoption, where the Keys actually paid moorings, because the homeowners association historically fought that and said the actual homeowners association owns the land under the lagoons, not state lands. And so that was a huge legal, and it was a battle. And so the 2018 shoreline program opened the door to have more of a holistic approach with the Keys. So that I think is going to help with the enforcement going forward. But yeah, happy to unpack more, Alex, for you on the enforcement history and some of the things we ran up against.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from members of the committee before we move to public comment? Seeing any, all right. Then we will now move to public comment on this item. If any member of the public wishes to address the committee on this agenda item, please raise your hand now, either in person by clicking the raise hand button at the bottom of your Zoom screen or by dialing *9 on your phone, and you will be called on and unmuted by a TRPA staff member. Catherine.
Madam Chair, we have 2 hands raised so far. The first hand up is Doug Flaherty. Doug, please unmute to make your comment.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Doug Flaherty, TahoeCleanAir.org. Who could not approve this? And thanks to the new owners and your attorney. I just have to say, and Alex, thanks so much. This is represents an absolute failure on the part of TRPA's monitoring and compliance programs. This is not acceptable, and somebody in the TRPA should be held accountable. Right under our noses, reading the staff report, this is disgusting. And the pixie dust that Julie Reagan sprinkles dissuades you from the true issue, and that is that this organization, the TRPA, while they have the power to monitor and enforce compliance, it's just so hard. The previous owner was convicted of a felony. Oh my gosh. So while TRPA is on one side of the fence pushing unbelievable and unsafe increased height, density, and coverage, they can't even take care of a simple issue degrading the lake right under their noses. I hope the board will hold the TRPA accountable, slap their wrists, do it in public, and stop this. You have one person in enforcement in the TRPA, I believe, Steve Sweet. It's just unacceptable, you guys. How much more of this is going on around the entire lake when this is going on right under their noses? I could go on, but I think that covers my point. Thank you.
Next.
The next hand raised is Gavin Feiger. Gavin, please unmute to make your comment.
Hello, thank you. Morning, Legal Committee. I just want to provide some comments now because we will not be able to comment at the governing board meeting coming up where this is also on the agenda. But yeah, Suntex has been great to work with. Really appreciate Eric, Jason Drew. Thank you for Alex for bringing up our letter. That parking piece is the only part of this settlement that was missing from this settlement. That was a priority for us. So looking forward to seeing that get addressed when the 66 slips are permitted. Also really looking forward to reviewing the AIS master plan. You know, that's something that we've been pretty focused on since the shoreline plan was adopted. Yeah, so that's basically it. Look, and really, yeah, thank you for taking care of this. Really appreciate enforcement, and you know that we have big picture issues with enforcement, similar to what Doug was just talking about. So looking forward to working on that with y'all over the coming, well, probably a long time. Thank you.
No, Madam Chair, there are no other hands raised.
Okay. So if there are no further comments or questions by members of the committee, I'd like to have somebody make a motion to recommend approval of the settlement agreement to the governing board as outlined in attachment A and as modified by the change to paragraph 8.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion. Any comments on the question? All right, Catherine, could you please take the roll?
Ms. Faustinos?
Yes.
Ms. Loomer?
Yes.
Mr. Keycover?
Yes.
Ms. Aldine?
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you. All right, it's a new day at the Tahoe Marina. All right, go for it. And do good. Thank you. All right, thanks, guys. Okay, next item on the agenda is a closed session. It's agenda item number 4. We have a closed session scheduled with counsel to discuss existing potential litigation. I'll ask members of the public to join us I'll ask members of the public joining us in person to exit the room. Eric, whenever you're ready. Maybe Dennis, could you talk to her? We have a closed session. Sorry. Yes, that's what it is. That's all right. If you could exit the room, that would be great. Thank you. In-person committee members and staff may stay for the closed session. The main session will resume after the closed session is over. Remote committee members and staff, please wait to be moved into the breakout room. So we need a motion to go into closed session.
Moved.
Thank you. We have a motion. Okay, now we're on to agenda item number 5, which is potential direction regarding agenda item number 4. Does staff require any direction from the legal committee? Grant?
No required direction.
Okay.
No direction to report.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on to the next item, which is agenda number 6, committee member comments. Any comments by members of our committee? Have we lost our 2 online members?
I'm here.
No,
You still there? Okay, all right.
Yes.
Any comments, Alex or Belinda?
Nope.
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ben?
No.
No, okay. All right, seeing that there are no member comments, we will move on to our final item in this morning's meeting. That's a public interest comment period. If any member of the public wishes to speak at this time, please raise your hand now, either in person, and we have no members of the public here with us in person, or by clicking on the raise hand at the bottom of your Zoom screen, or by dialing *9 on your phone, and you will be called on and unmuted by a TRPA staff member. Any public comment?
Madam Chair, there are no members of the public online either.
Okay, all right, thank you. Then we will close public comment. and move on to adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn? We have a motion to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. We are adjourned. And for those who are maybe monitoring the meeting online, the remaining TRPA committee meetings and governing board meeting will take place in the main boardroom and on the main webinar posted at www.trpa.gov in how many minutes, Captain?
Imminently.
Immediately.
Yes.
All right. Thanks so much.
Well,